So you plug in a net profit, right? Now you go to the lowest reasonable salary for that type of work. Now, there's going to be some judgment call to this, right? I mean, that's the way it is, right? It's going to be like a lot of people want to say, well, what's the lowest minimum salary? You know, it depends on the situation, right? So, you know, and you want to know what it depends on. And whenever I'm trying to help with those kind of gray area or judgment call scenarios, right, I'm going to consult the IRS as a primary source, right? Because if the IRS has an issue with something that we do or that we recommend, it's going to, you know, I don't want to have an issue, right? So I'm going to look at what the IRS says first. And so for that reason, you guys, I just posted to the chat box the page on the IRS website, the primary page that talks about reasonable salary, minimum reasonable salary for an S corporation, okay? Which is what we're going to talk about right now, all right? So if you want an original source, that's what you would look at. But basically you're looking at, you know, hey, if the owner was paying somebody else to do this work, what's the lowest amount that somebody could do that job for and still be within reason, okay? Still be reasonable. Now let's take an example that Leticia had put out, I think it was last week, of a landscaper, okay? So you could look on, let's take an example, you could look on the Bureau of Labor Statistics website and you could put landscaper. How much does a landscaper make if they work full time, right? So let's say it was around 40,000, let's say it was 35,000. It might be less, you know, it might be 27,000. So what would you guys say that it would be? What do you think is reasonable? I'm not going to like quote you on this, but what do you think we would use for, say, let's say it's a landscaper. The client's a landscaper. What does a full-time landscaper make in your area? If they were an employee, if they were a W-2 employee, I'd say probably around 30,000. You know, would be pretty reasonable, right? Be pretty defensible. Okay. So once I plug 30,000 in, that means that we have the potential to save this client almost $7,000 in the first year. Okay? Do you guys like doing that? Do you like? Yeah, so Margarita said 28,000. Hey Margarita, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Rita said 30,000. Ron said $10 an hour. Okay. So you guys can kind of make those evaluations, right? And you always want to work with the client. You don't tell the client, like you're not like an HR, you know, specialist or like a wage specialist, right? You're just consulting with the client, discussing, right? Like, hey, if you were to hire somebody to do your job, you know, how much would you pay them, right? That could be part of the conversation. So whatever you plug into this box for the minimum reasonable salary, this is what they are. And anytime you're talking about doing tax planning, which this training is going to have a lot to do with tax planning, especially our second training as well, you want to, or a good practice, you guys, is to establish what are they paying now. So right now, like if they don't do anything, if they take this meeting with you or they take this phone call with you and they don't do anything, just their self-employment tax is going to be 11 grand. Okay? That's not including income tax. That's not that's not including federal income tax, not including state income tax. So their tax bill just from 75,000, and again, you guys know there's a lot of variables here. Do they have dependents, et cetera? But my point is that it's very costly to be on Schedule C once you are making over about 50 grand or even 40 grand. It gets very, very costly. And that's why we see a lot of tax preparers lose clients at this stage of someone's business, okay?